I'm Dean Newland, and welcome to Leadovation. Reimagine, facilitate, flourish. This podcast is dedicated to the art and science of innovative leadership. Through insightful interviews with industry experts, I bring you cutting-edge strategies and experiences of innovative leadership, helping you think differently, act strategically, and achieve remarkable results. Join me as I provide insights and tools that empower you to make smarter decisions, forge meaningful relationships. Welcome to Leadovation. What if a great innovation in leadership didn't come from a corporate boardroom, but from a couple peeling their screaming child off the floor of a sensory-overloaded home? In this episode of the Leadovation podcast, I sit down with two very special guests, Michael and Jennifer Petracci, who also happen to be in my family. But that's not why they are here. They're here because they've done something all leaders in any industry strive to do: build something bold, meaningful, and deeply human in the face of uncertainty, resistance, and heartbreak. Their journey began not in a business plan, but in desperation. Their daughter, born prematurely, spent her early years crying for 8 hours a day, overwhelmed by light, sound, touch, life itself. And out of love and necessity, Michael and Jennifer transformed their careers and rewrote the rules of the profession. Together, now they run a pioneering chiropractic clinic in Tennessee that doesn't just treat spinal alignment. It helps neurodivergent children regulate their nervous systems, reclaim their calm, and participate fully in their lives. Their story isn't just about healthcare or kids. It's about what happens when your business is your mission, when your personal story becomes your professional compass, and when your clients don't just need what you offer, they need help understanding why they need it at all. For every entrepreneur, executive, or team leader who's ever felt the frustration of knowing they can help but not being able to, this conversation is for you. It's about trust. It's about perseverance. It's about the courage to expect miracles, especially when no one else does. This is Leadovation Podcast. I'm Dean Newland. Let's dive in. This is really a treat for me because it's not usual that I get to bring my family onto this podcast. I mean, I think this is 660 some odd episodes. And very rarely do I get this opportunity. So Jennifer and Michael, it is just a delight to have you on this podcast and to talk about your journey with your small business. And I'll just sort of tee us up here because I think it might be useful to hear your story. Having a small business or any kind of business is really challenging. You know, most companies don't make it past the first year, let alone the third year or the fifth year. And now we've got even more challenges with AI, and there's uncertain economies and just the ability to scale. Very few people have the guts to take on a small business, and you two have. Now you've added another complexity, which is you're doing something that nobody else has done or very few people have done. You've become a maverick in your own industry. And I'm really curious, one, to find out, just let everybody know what it is you guys do and why it's unique. But then I want to kind of transition into how you've been able to stay to your core around what you're trying to do, even though it's so different and new for most people, and might even challenge the status quo about how to make something happen. You know, like there's a great book out by Jim Collins who talks about level 5 leadership. You know, this is the level 5 leadership when you're doing something that's changing the industry. That's what you two are doing. So tell us what you're all about.
All right. Sure. Yeah. So I'm a chiropractor. You know, I mean, I started out as your traditional pain-based chiropractor. And I did a lot of kind of pain-based chiropractic, traditional headache, back pain kind of stuff for about a decade. And now, I work with, we call it, it's a company called PX Docs that I hooked up with that has their main thing is that we work on kind of what we call perfect storm kids. So we work on kids that are kind of have a lot of neurodivergent issues and autism, condition called PANDAS, which is pediatric autoimmune neuropsychiatric disorder associated with streptococcus. PANDAS is a lot easier way to say that.
This is why I have to describe it after he does.
Yeah.
So Jennifer, you're the person who speaks in English.
Yes.
Dr. Michael speaks in. Yeah. Okay, got it.
Believe it or not, that literally is
I see.
part of my job.
You're his translator, right? You kind of go around and what he really meant to say is.
So PANDAS, ADHD, kids that are struggling.
Anxiety.
Anxiety.
Sensory processing disorder.
And we try to pick up on some of these things early on with your colicky baby, that kiddo that's getting a lot of ear infections. A lot of it revolves around pediatrics, although we work on, prenatal, trying to prevent the perfect storm stuff. And that's kind of the big thing of what I do. It's a niche within the chiropractic profession. There's been a lot of pediatric clinics and family-based wellness clinics, but the really working on those kiddos that are really difficult, and they don't conform to your perfect patient that's just going to lay on a table and kind of let you do whatever. You have to have a certain set of skills, and so.
We should start listing the fun places that he's had to adjust children.
Sorry, Jennifer, say that again.
I said we should start listing the fun places that he's had to do adjustments, because they're not always in the adjusting area.
Yes.
Sometimes it's
all right. So
area at the office or in a car seat, or one of them was literally on top of. We have these half walls, and he had climbed the wall and was laying across the top of the wall, and he was giving him the adjustments on the half wall.
You gotta kind of work with what you got. Yeah, sometimes you're literally peeling kids off the walls that are coming in here that are really, really high strung. We work on a lot of, your autonomic nervous system, which is basically your fight or flight, your rest and digest. And some of these kids are really stuck in fight or flight. So you gotta, when they are, they're interested.
So,
and the cool thing, go ahead.
No, I just want to kind of call out so that people really get what you're saying here, because it's really important. So when you think about chiropractic, most people think bone crackers, something that is going to align my structure. But now you're talking this whole thing about neurology. You're talking about behavioral challenges and with children. And it's not that you are in there working with them and it's about the structural issues that you're dealing with solely. And yes, they might be difficult to work with because they don't want to sit still, or there may be some behavioral issues which might prevent them from accepting your service. You're actually seeing a connection between the kind of chiropractic work that you're doing and the neurological issues that they're experiencing. That I think is what I'm getting. That's different. Am I correct?
It's all neurologically focused. Yep. Everything that we do is focused on the nervous system. When I adjust, it's not based on pain. It's not based on a static x-ray, you standing still. It's based on neurologic scans that are really meant to measure what's going on with your autonomic nervous system. Everything from thermal to EMG, which is looking at the muscles along the spine.
What does EMG stand for, Mike?
Electromyography. So it's basically it's like an EKG. It just, every time you contract your muscle, you emit a little bit of an electrical signal, and it picks up what's going on with the muscles along the spine. So we get a good look at what's going on from the muscle perspective. We get a look at what's going on with the thermal perspective, and we get a look at what's going on with your HRV. So HRV is kind of a big one out there, and it has a lot.
HRV stands for
heart rate variability. And so,
okay, thank you.
Yes. A lot of people actually have
a lexicon of phrases will be provided in the show notes today. So, Michael, so what I'm at, I guess, is
I'll take
if I go to a chiropractor.
Yes.
If I go to a chiropractor, I know, and I do. You've, in fact, I think, have adjusted me when I see you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel better because I feel more in alignment, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I don't associate any sort of neurological benefit to that. Maybe it's because I don't think so, but am I experiencing the same sort of benefit that the children that you're working with experience, but I just don't call that out. I don't think that's what I'm experiencing. It's sort of like a hidden benefit, or is there a different technique and process that you are using on top of the chiropractic that is creating this neurological benefit?
There's a little bit of both in there. So
Okay.
one, a lot of chiropractors will talk about the central nervous system. They'll talk about it more in a hardware perspective, but your nervous system is broken down into hardware and software. So you have your hardware, your brain, your spinal cord, your nerves that go out to every single cell in your body. And, the role of the nervous system is to basically perceive the environment and to control and coordinate the response of all your cells in your body. So if it's a little bit hot outside, you're going to have a certain neurologic response there. If it gets a little bit colder, you may have to go through a little bit more vasoconstriction, and you're going to push the blood inward a little bit, and your body is going to heat up. When you're having a sympathetic response, so when you're in fight or flight, you're going to have a different pathways of things that are going to be happening versus a parasympathetic when you're in rest and digest. So when you're in fight or flight, you're going to be trying to do all the things that are going to help you get away from that bear, that lion, or whatever is chasing you. You're going to have your heartbeat faster. You're going to be pushing all of your blood out into your extremities. You're going to be releasing cortisol and adrenaline. You're going to be basically preparing your body to either run to get away or to fight to protect yourself or your family. If you've ever had, stood in front of a group of people and had a that stage fright kind of situation where all of a sudden you can't breathe and talk at the same time, your breathing is really shallow, you're just locked in that sympathetic overload where you're in fight or flight.
Let me ask you something about that. That's a great, let me just pull on that string just a wee bit.
Sure. Yeah.
Are you saying that if somebody is really afraid to give a speech,
yep,
and they're having that fight or flight, I can't talk, I'm really like just shaking like a leaf.
Yep.
If they were able to spend 5 minutes with you and you were able to give them some chiropractic magic that you do, would they would they be able to stand in front of this group of 500 people and do a better job than had they not had that chiropractic adjustment?
Well, absolutely, chiropractic is going to help with that. It's not always a one-time fix. It takes
understood. No, I'm not looking for panacea. I'm just looking for would I feel better?
It's like exercise for your muscles. It's like basically exercise for your nervous system.
We talk about it like a gas pedal and a brake pedal. So your fight or flight's your gas pedal. Your rest and digest is your brake pedal. And if that gas pedal gets stuck on, you can be hammering on the brake, and you're just not going to be able to get over into that rest and digest. Your body's designed to be in one or the other. It can't do both at the same time. And so if you're stuck in fight or flight, like you are just about to give up and get up and give a presentation, you're going to have a really hard time trying to self-regulate and pull yourself back. You can't work that brake pedal. Yeah. So one of the things that we help out with, especially with these kids that have ADHD and are really stuck in fight or flight, we're designed as humans to really be in fight or flight about 10 to 15% of the day. It's not a terrible thing when we're exercising, when we're doing certain activities that require us to kind of be in more of a sympathetic area. It gets demonized because, of course, it has a lot of really negative effects. But long-term sympathetic overload is what really creates a lot of problems for a lot of people. So most of the time we're worried about bears that aren't there or lions that aren't there. We're worried and stressed out about a lot of things. And another, word for stress is just that we're just stuck. We're stuck over in that fight or flight. Our brains are kicking us into that sympathetic drive when we should be able to put the brake pedal on. That's where we can't sleep at night. We can't get into rest and digest.
Or if you have like a sensory kid, what'll happen is, all of your senses are experiencing things. And so as you're sitting here, your information is brought into your body and going up into your brain. Your brain processes it and outputs information. And so if you've got like a tag, like a lot of autistic kids and sensory processing kids, they can't have tags in their clothes. And what happens is that sensation it sends a message to the brain, and the brain gets scrambled basically between the sensing that and going up into the brain. And what happens is then the brain sends out an output of fight or flight, like that tag is
just by having a shirt tag.
Yeah. And absolutely. So what happens is he's able to work on the nervous system and adjust the area that basically disrupts, and not necessarily that area, but he adjusts the area that controls that response, so that when that kid puts on a shirt with a tag the next time, they don't get that fight or flight response where they have to, they're freaked out.
From a chiropractic perspective, what we're really working on is what we call the afferent signals, the signals going to the brain. So we're working on that, how much the brain is being able to perceive the environment. And we look for the areas of dysfunction where maybe the signal getting through that area is not so great. So if it has a fuzzy signal in there, it doesn't quite know what to do with the output there. So when we're looking for what those primary or secondary areas are on any given visit, we're really looking for, hey, where is there the biggest dysfunction, the biggest breakdown in signal being able to get to the brain?
Right. So each part of your spine sends a message to a different part of the body. And so different adjustments affect different parts of the body.
Sure.
So I think now you've done a pretty good job of defining in a very high level way how different your approach to your standard chiropractic practice might be about. I mean, it definitely, I mean, we talk once in a while, not as much as I wish, but that's a whole nother story. We'll deal with it later. But nonetheless, I understand what you're doing, but I've learned a lot about how unique this is.
Sure.
So Jennifer, maybe you could walk us through some of this. What has been some of the challenges that you have dealt with as a practice going out into your community, doing something that is not your standard approach to, in this case, supporting infants, supporting children with chiropractic? Talk us through what have you been experiencing and how have you gotten through it when some people would just say, screw it, I'm not going to do this. This is too much work, not enough support. Talk through it. What's that's been like?
Well, it's really interesting because you're dealing with parents and how they protect their children. And so a lot of it is, we have two responses. I mean, one of the things that makes it great is that the type of care that this is, it actually takes a while to get this care. You have to have a care plan. It's not like you come in and you get one adjustment and that's it. So it's like, hey, you get a certain number of adjustments, certain number of times a day, and parents are willing to do that with their kids, and they're not willing to do it for themselves usually until they see it work on their children. And so the great thing that's really rewarding for us, because in the past with the pain-based care, we didn't have people that were willing to do the effort of going in as many times as it took to get the care. Whereas when you have parents, they're like, what does my kid need? I'm there. I'll take him in 3 times a day if I need it. But then the other side is you have the parents that are like, don't touch my kid. You sound like that snake oil person, because I've never heard of this before. And chiropractors, they work on the back. They don't do what you're telling me it does. And they don't know. And so a lot of what we have to do is educate people. And the problem along the way is you have the people who are unwilling to want to learn. So and you have a lot of parents who are also they're so busy trying to get their kids acknowledged as people that are not broken. Like, okay, my kid's not broken because they're autistic. They're still important. They're still, somebody to that's relevant. And they're so busy fighting that fight that when you say, I can help you, they're like, I don't need help. My kid's not broken. And I'm like, I didn't say your kid was.
Yeah.
What I said was some of the things that you're dealing with, we can ease, so that we can make their lives easier.
So I guess the thing that I'm pulling out of this, if I take a look at the people who might be listening to this, is that you might have a service or product that people want. And then on top of it, you might know that they need it, but they don't know that they need it. And then how do you educate them on something that they don't know that they need without, quite frankly, pissing them off?
Yeah. Well, that has taken me, months and months of finally figuring out how to word things, because a lot of it's online, because you can't just, I do find people just walking down the street because you can tell, we have a sensory kit, right? So when I go around.
You have
a sensory kit. So our daughter has sensory processing disorder. That's why he got into this in the first place.
So explain that real quick so that people know.
Okay. So sensory processing disorder is basically, well, do you want to describe this or can I explain it?
You go for it.
I got this. Okay.
Hey, you got this, girl.
Sensory processing disorder is basically where your body you get overwhelmed with the senses that you're experiencing. So for example, some people have specifically auditory issues, some people have visual issues, vestibular issues, which is like your balance in space. Our daughter had all of them. The only one she didn't have was olfactory, so smells didn't bother her that much, but everything else would overwhelm her to the point where she would just cover her head and her hands, and then she would curl into a ball. And after that, which was like her way to try to protect herself, and then after that, she would just start screaming. So she cried like 8 hours a day, and we didn't know why for a really long time. Because she was a preemie, so she was born super early, which is part of why her nervous system didn't develop the right way. And in fact, when you go into a NICU, they want you to be quiet, because if you talk too loud, it overwhelms their nervous systems and it shuts them down. So their heart rates go down, they stop breathing. So like from the beginning, parents are told this, but then they hand you the baby and they say, go home and be normal. Your kid will be fine. And it's really not true. And so almost all preemies I've discovered, I've talked to lots of occupational therapists in trying to help Izzy, our daughter. And they told me, well, basically not everyone who has sensory processing disorder is a preemie, but every preemie pretty much has sensory processing disorder. And most of them who don't are just not actually, they haven't been diagnosed with it. And so it'll look like, so I said 8 hours a day of screaming. So like if you're at the dinner table and it's kind of a buildup of things, and she's been okay for most of the day, but then the lights, the sun's shining in and it's on her face, and there's clinking of the utensils, and there's, kind of a variety of senses. There's now smell added to it. There's a variety of things. All of a sudden, she'll just start screaming. And so I can't tell you how many times I didn't eat dinner with the family, because in order for anybody else to eat, I had to just take her out of the room. And she had also like vestibular issues. So she couldn't walk on uneven ground. She couldn't sit on a swing without screaming, because there was too much space around her. So her body didn't know what to do, and her response was fight or flight. And because she couldn't do anything else, because she was a baby, she would just scream.
Right. There's no language there.
Yeah. There's no language. And so it was so dramatic for us, because when he started, so he went back to school to try to help her. And 2 weeks after care, I had a neighbor come by and ask, is he okay? And I was like, what do you mean? And he said, I haven't heard her cry in a while. I was like, oh, right. No, she's doing much better. Thank you for asking. She's finally not crying. So it's something where, it is something that is really obvious to a sensory mom when you see another kid that's experiencing sensory issues, because it's a very specific type of responses that you're used to seeing. And so it's very familiar when I go out and I see a mom on the playground and I see a kid flip that switch.
You can see it.
I can see it. And I know it is.
But the mom,
how do I help that mom? Because I know that mom is struggling with what I was struggling with.
So you got the authentic message that you understand what they're going through.
Right. And so on a personal level, it's easier for me to connect with moms. I mean, unless it's like a mom I haven't met who isn't interested in chatting with me, because she's so overwhelmed with the amount of difficulty of dealing with that. Sometimes they're so shut down that connecting with them is hard. So I've found that a lot of times hearing our story and just telling them about our experience, because, when you stand there and they ask, what do you do? I'm like, well, let me tell you. And then I tell them our story and about why we do it. And they can relate to such an extent that oftentimes in person, that's really easy to do, but you can't reach very many people if you're just based on one person, me, going to a playground and hoping to connect with the mom there. And so it's something we've done a lot online, because there's a lot of mom groups that go online and they ask questions. Hey, my kid's behavior is this. They always post it anonymously, because people get a lot of feedback from people like, you're just a bad parent. Clearly, you don't know how to parent your child.
Is that part of the pushback that you guys have gotten? Like, you guys are quacks, you're just bad parents? I mean, I've actually done some sort of, everybody seems to be a Monday morning quarterback when it comes to parenting. Like, everybody seems to, even if you haven't ever had kids, you have an opinion about how to parent, right?
Oh, yeah. So if you have a kid that breaks down in Costco and is screaming on the floor, everybody's looking at you like,
you must be the parent.
Yeah, this is what you should be doing. And everybody has a thing, and they don't understand that it's a neurological response. And so when these moms are they're posting anonymously because they don't want to be told that. And they're usually saying, listen, I've tried all the parenting things. I've tried being stricter. I've tried talking it through with them. I've tried occupational therapy. I've tried physical therapy, speech therapy. I've tried all of these things to kind of work through this with them, eating therapy, all the things that kids struggle with. And they're not getting what it takes. And so they're asking, what is this? And so I have to go on and try to tell them, but I don't want to look like I'm just saying, hey, my husband can fix anything. Come to our office, because that just, who responds to that? You think they're just, like I said, selling snake oil.
But the nice thing, though, that you two have, though, that I think that is unique is that authentic, you are the product of the product. We eat the food that we cook, aka we're chefs, we are the beneficiaries of the service that we're providing other people. Yeah. And so I'm sure as you two started to figure out what to do with Izzy and you started to see some benefits, hey, the kid's not crying anymore, something's working, you must have had, tell me if I'm wrong, this upswelling of purpose.
Yeah.
Like clarity, just ding.
Oh yeah. I wanted to stand at the top of a mountain and just tell every mother that came by, tell me what your kid's going through. I might be able to help you.
But I suppose, though, Jen, if I could, it's kind of like, this is a really bad analogy, so please take it as just a dumb analogy. But like if you go through AA and all of a sudden you found the light, you found the process, you understand how to lick this addiction, and all of a sudden there's a period of time, my brother went through this and so forth, where they kind of become proselytizers. They want to tell everybody like, oh, you're obviously a dry drunk, you need to get into therapy. You can overdo it, right? And it was certainly, when you have so much energy, like you want to fix everybody. Because you found the answer. And of course, that becomes a repellent to some people who can't take that much so quickly. Is that a fair statement?
100%. And we've had a lot of interesting responses back from people, where it'll be really interesting because we'll have really dynamically different responses to what I say. Because usually I get on and I try to be as like, I just try to inform them what neurologically focused chiropractic is and that it can help. And if they're looking for somebody, I can help them find someone near them, because I know people all over the place. And so I'm able to help. I tell them I will help them find someone near them. And that usually takes off the pressure of, hey, I'm selling just what we do. And I'm able to kind of just offer up this help. And then they often will take me up on it. But I also find a lot of people will respond back, respond after that. Not even the person sometimes, but other moms that are like, where are you located? If you're having that kind of response, I want to go to your husband, because I tell the responses that we're having and the experiences. I mean, we have moms in our front office crying and telling us that we've changed their lives and their lives have never been like this before. And so I'm able to say that. And then we get to have these moms go, where are you located?
Yeah.
But you end up with the opposite too. You have these moms who are like, my kid is not broken and you're selling something that I know doesn't work. I don't care what you say. But it doesn't matter if you want to inform me.
How have you two, maybe Mike, you could chime in on this. How have you two been able to let go of the person you can help?
So
how's that for like a clunker?
100%. You can only help the people who want to be helped. I mean, back to your AA analogy. I mean, if you go bursting into a bar and start screaming at everybody, you're gonna get quite a bit of pushback there. People are gonna tell you to get lost. But somebody's gonna actually want the help. I can tell you with the types of kids that we work with, most of them have tried everything. Most of them have tried everything that conventional medicine has thrown at them.
Medicine,
therapies, everything from medications to therapies to everything that you can think of. And they are much more open to like, hey, even if they're not like, even if they're like, I don't think this thing's going to work, but I could just try just about anything. And then they see how well it works. For me, the biggest thing is we're just out there to help. The mission is number one. And you talk about the purpose. It's about helping kids. And so, you can only help those kids that mom and dad are willing to bring in and get the help. The rest of it, you could drive yourself crazy.
It is interesting though. I mean, I feel this sometimes in my own work, I had a CEO tell me this just recently. He said, Dean, I've been involved in a consulting firm before I became a CEO. And so I kind of understand your perspective. He's so set this up so well, right? And basically, he was saying is be patient with us because I know you can see what we all need to do, and you might be right, but it's hard to move a $4 billion ship. You know,
Yeah.
it's hard to do
100%.
that. And I've gotten, I think, after a while, gotten a lot better at it. But there's the thing that sometimes drives me nuts. It used to a lot more is knowing that somebody could make a change but decides not to, and that I even might have some tool or a role to play in that, and having to just let that go and be able to feel good about what I'm doing because there's somebody else out there that is the right time, the right mix, the right fit, and that I can do positive work. And you probably are in the same boat. We're just doing different populations, right?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard when you can see a kid that you can help and the parents aren't there because you're like, the kid's a different person, you know? And so it's easier. Like
the kid's a different person
than the adult. Like if an adult, it's so much easier to let them go if they don't want to be here because they're, you know, they have to make their own life decisions.
Right.
And with the kid, it's harder because it hurts your heart more, you know, not because there's just, you want to help all the kids. You just want to help everyone that comes through, but they're not all in that same place. It's just like anytime you see a kid at the grocery store and you're thinking, oh man, that kid's got it rough, you know, with whatever he's going through, and you wish you could help them. It's that same feeling, you know, like of responsibility where but in this case, you're thinking, only I could have said it the right way to have it heard, or, you know, like, so you have to try to not do that to yourself. That's the part that I struggle with because I think, you know, and especially when you're somebody who really wants to do the best you can do, and you feel like you have this higher purpose, and you're sitting here going, okay, you know, how could I reword that next time? Because I'm not doing that again.
it's the guilt that you somehow feel that you were the reason why they couldn't hear your message. And maybe it had nothing to do with you. And again, extrapolate those who are listening to this outside of this conversation and how it relates to your work and how it relates to your family and any place else, because these things that these two are talking about can be found in many places. You know, you're passionate about something, but somebody else isn't buying into it. At what point do you finally say, there's nothing more I can do? I remember a person I was working with years ago over at Mayo, and he kept coming to my calls and said, I'm trying everything you're telling me to do to work with this guy on my team, but he won't change. I feel so bad. I said, wait a minute. Back up the bus. You can't change anybody. All you can do is lay the groundwork, right? You've done everything you can. Let it go. Sometimes you just have to let go, even though you know you could help somebody if they wanted it.
I just had to do that with a family, you know, where they messaged me and they basically, I think we believe what you're doing. And like they had this kind of like, I think so. I think we're actually kind of on board with what you're saying, but we're just really not willing to put the money down. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry, because that's okay. You know, it's not meant for everyone. And I basically just had to explain, like, look, we actually make it so much more affordable than like anybody else you go to for a therapy to help this kind of work. If you go to an occupational therapist or speech therapist or on and on and on down the road, we like bend over backwards to try to make it possible for families, because that's part of our mission. How can we help you? But we can't just give it to you. You know, like you have to put some.
No, you have a family, you have a mortgage, you have cars, you know.
But even more so, it takes a commitment of care, because sometimes he's telling them you have to come in twice a day for 2 weeks. That is hard on a family. That is really hard. And we know, because I had to do it with our daughter. And so trying to do that as a mom when you have a kid that's making you want to pull your hair out, it's like you're telling me to do what? You want me to go twice a day? I can barely go once a day to the grocery store. You know, like what are you telling me to do? But if you don't have somebody who's willing to, the skin in the game, like putting the money in, is actually them saying, I'm willing to
committed.
step in and do the work. I'm committed, because if they don't put that money in, they stop caring.
There's no,
they're like, oh, I'm gone. And he's like, wait a second, that was only 2 weeks in, and you need 8 weeks more care extra than that to even just get you to kind of okay where that's going to stick, you know, because it doesn't stick. It's kind of it's kind of like working out, you know, like, or I should say, I always liken it to braces. Like, you know, when your teeth first move into place, the dentist or the orthodontist doesn't just come in and rip your braces off and say, okay, you're good to go. You have to like keep them on for a period of time, and then you have to wear a retainer and get your body to kind of adjust to that new space. And they tell you should put it in the rest of your life.
Right.
You know,
so
that's
to that point, though, do you say no to clients, parents, moms, kids when they don't commit to the full meal deal? Like, well, we'll do two sessions, and you're going to go like 2 sessions is going to be squat for you.
Sure.
Correct.
One of the things that the only exceptions that I make, you know, one of the most important part of taking care of somebody from a neurologic perspective is care planning and making sure that the care plan's right. And so if somebody is in a situation where they're like, okay, I know we need an intensive, but we can't do that intensive until August something,
right,
you know, or mid-September. We'd like to get started now we can only come in X amount of time. It's like, well, okay, we can start priming the nervous system and start getting you ready for that. But you have to understand that you're not going to get the same results as if you actually commit to a care plan and you actually do what's needed to be done to help you out, because it takes, you know, it takes repetition in neurology.
Yeah.
It's so simple to understand that from so many perspectives. If you're going to play a musical instrument, we don't just show you how to do it once and you're rocking away. It takes practice, and it's a lot of that's neurological. I know it's, you know, there's the whole idea of muscle memory, but muscle memory is a myth. Your muscles don't really have memory. It's really just reprogramming those neurologic pathways. And anybody that's really good at anything has to put that input in over and over and over again to get to a really good point. You know, they do it in sports, they do it in music, you do it in just about everything that you do.
Do it in training and development too.
100%. Yes,
you know, because I was just talking to a person recently before I got on this, you know, this podcast, and we're beginning to design a leadership development program for them. They don't have one, right? And so we started talking about it. How do you sustain this? How do you make sure that it isn't just a one-off event and they lose 80% of it in the first month, much like if you're going to do something with you guys and they start it, but they don't continue it, right? Then you're right back where you started from. So in a way, you're in the change management business.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
From a neurological perspective.
Right. Well, and that when we set up this practice, it was a big deal because he wanted to. One of the things that he kind of got burnt out on was the inability to kind of get people to move the ball to do that work. And so he was getting really like, I'm doing all this work and I get them out of pain, and then they leave and they don't come back to get the rest of the care to keep them out of pain. And then they show up again a month later and they're like, oh, my shoulder's still jacked up. You didn't really do what, you know, you didn't really do it. And then he always felt so burnt out by that because he's like, I told you needed to keep coming in to set that, you know, to get that kind of working properly. And so when we set this practice up, the big thing that we really wanted was for him to be able to see that kind of follow through with people actually committing to doing the work it takes to help themselves. And that's part of what, like, the attraction to aiming this towards kids, because there's two parts of it. One, you can affect a kid so much more than an adult, because at that point as an adult you're so set in your ways and your nervous system, it takes so much more to change, and you're not going to get that really malleable change that you do with children. And so you can change the trajectory of a child's life. So that's one part. But the other part is, again, parents are willing to do for the kids what they're not willing to do for themselves.
Sure.
So in a sense, you heal the parent through the child.
Yeah.
So here's let me ask you this. One sentence, one thing you've learned, Jennifer, and then also Michael, that is something that those who are listening to this could remember. And it doesn't have to be about chiropractic and children, but I mean the journey you've been on, you know, like your life lessons that you've learned through this whole process. What's a sentence or two that kind of like jumps to mind that says, if I were to step back and go, you know, this is something that I really picked up on this whole process that we've been through, what would it be?
I'm wearing it on my shirt.
What is it?
It says, expect miracles.
Okay, so what does that mean to you?
Well, so I've seen it in so many different parts, because a lot of it's been like watching what happens to the change for these children, it literally looks like a miracle. And, you know, you have kids who are not eating, they get an adjustment, they go next door to the cafe and they eat a whole meal. And the parents come back going, he hasn't
How
done
did
this
that
in years.
happen?
He hasn't done this in years. Or, you know, he hasn't been able to sit through that sound of, you know, inside an environment while he's eating. He can't eat the food, the textures bothered him. So it's like, it's literally watching something that feels like a miracle. When you see that kid that has that tick that won't go away, and then suddenly they come in one day and you're like, hey, they haven't been doing that for a while, you know? Like,
so could that be so is that a message that you would propose others adapt to in other aspects of business and life?
Yes.
So
I mean, like,
when I think about expect miracles, you know, my big thing on that is it's really where your focus is. You know, I don't do, you know, I'm not trying to, I'm not the one doing the miracles. God does miracles. Miracles are happening around us every single day.
So you're being the conduit.
Yeah. So basically, all I'm trying to do is help people's body function the way that God designed it to function. And when that happens, your body, you are a miracle in and of yourself. And your body is a miracle. I mean, it's amazing what your body can do. I didn't, you know, wave a magic wand and make it happen. But, you know, if you look around, miracles are happening all around us all the time. And we get so focused down on all the negativity around us, and there's plenty of it to focus on. But if you can keep your focus where it should be, which is just in the fact that, you know, there's incredible stuff happening every day all around us. You know, you have to have that be your drive for making your way through life and through the day. Is, you know, just focus on that and don't get so bogged down with all the other stuff.
So that's if there's like all this other stuff is fantastic, you know, and because you're my family, I'm so interested in this, and I'm so interested from a healthcare perspective and kids and being a parent. But that phrase, expect miracles, what you both are wearing on your shirts.
Yep, we are.
I mean, just thinking like, what would it be like if we went to work and everybody came into work with that paradigm, that mindset, that viewfinder of they're looking for miracles, and that's how they treat you, that's how they treat each other. I'm not saying we won't have challenges, right? We have different things, but you start the day with that kind of mindset that I'm going to go and find miracles.
Yeah,
to me, that is a totally different mindset of like, the world sucks and I can't wait to get through it. Right?
Because we could be looking at it going, how sucky is it that these kids are having this experience all the time? And instead, we look at it and we go, isn't that amazing, the coincidence of events that had to happen to bring them to us, to interact with me randomly in a grocery store,
which is a miracle in and of itself.
That's what I'm saying. You know,
it's
like
a miracle of health.
Yes, that's what's or even sometimes I'll respond to something somewhere and it connects with the mom that wasn't even asking a question. Months later, they happen to have like accidentally run across a response that I said, and then they message me later and tell me that I changed their life. They didn't even go to our office. They went to another office that does the same thing because they live too far away, and they experienced a miracle because of it, you know? And so it's really amazing, the impact and the things that happen around you when you watch for it. Because we even have it on our wall in our office. When you come in, it says right at the front, expect miracles.
All right. So here's a question. I'm going to take us off the path here for a second.
Okay.
On the topic of expecting miracles, for a husband and wife to work together in a business, one would say is a miracle. So I have that experience, you know that, but you have that experience, and so does your parents, which is interesting that we've got this sort of in this family. There's a lot of husband and wife partnerships in life, but partnerships in business. So what works in this partnership that you're able to blend your family and your business all together without tearing each other apart?
Great question.
You want to take that one?
You know, it helps. I have a pretty amazing wife, and so It's one of those things.
Oh, shucks, Mike.
So no, but it she is really incredible. She's an incredible artist, and she kind of took time away from her path, and it's mostly because of the amount of change that she saw in our daughter. Like, she had nothing to do with my pain clinic. She was not a part of that at all. That was not something she was interested in. I did that, and it was kind of my own thing. I was running it.
I would decorate it though.
She would yes, you did. Yeah.
Nice artwork too, by the way.
And all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So she, but when she saw what this can do to help these kiddos out that are suffering, when you talk about vision, it's so funny because, and not to get too far off topic, and this will be just a second, it's so easy for people to sit down and try to come up with a vision for their practice, or not their practice, their business, whatever your business may be, whether you're a plumber or whether you're anything else. And we sit around and we come up with a little tagline. And I did that for my pain clinic. That kind of helps to try to be that guiding compass that helps us go forward. But I can tell you, from having that and having that vision and mission and values and all the stuff hammered out before, I didn't have the amount of belief in that as what I get to see with these kids. And so to really have a true vision now of helping families thrive and helping these kids, it transforms those bad days into really having that purpose driving forward. She was able to jump on board with that. And because we both have such a passion for the vision, it helps us to be able to navigate husband and wife interacting versus colleagues interacting. She is so incredible at doing the things that she's doing, as far as all the work she does online, helping to put the systems together. Neither one of us are we're just going through the 6 roles of working genius, or the 6 levels of working genius. We're both kind of, neither one of us are has that
the galvanizer,
the galvanizer, or the tenacity of that small task to finish thing. So we're big on the wonder, the coming up with the big dream. We're big on the inventor part of it, or I've got the inventor, but I can think of the big thing. I can think of 6 different ways of making it happen. So I can invent a lot of different outside of the box thinking ways to do it. I just don't have the decisiveness to pick which of those, because I get analysis.
Is that you, Jen? You're the decisive?
So I get the analysis paralysis on those, because I feel like either one, the wonder part of me says we can make all these work, and so I need somebody.
Jen's going, just make a decision, damn it.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm the one, I feel like I sometimes have to get all of his ideas and kind of bring them in and just say, okay, what are we really honing in on? So for me, it's pretty. That's the thing that I see pretty clearly. It's the decision making.
So
as far as
I need that aspect, that decisiveness to say, look, 3 of those suck, and 3 of those are okay, but out of those 3, let's go with this, and let's just focus on that one thing.
Which I think takes a lot of trust. I think a lot of what I see helps this to work is a trust in the other person, because for example, if you get into an argument over what's the next thing that's the most important next step that we're working on, and you get into a little bit of a back and forth about it, I think the biggest thing is that it's a safe place to do it, because the other person's intentions and goals are the same as yours, and so you both have, again, that same mission that you're working for, and so there's a trust that the other person has your goodwill and your goals goodwill in heart.
It's a really good point. So if I could, just as an outsider looking in, but I've watched you two since you were first got connected. You were little babies. No, that's not the case. But no, but as a family member watching this marriage over the last several years, you do embody a common vision and common trust. But I have there's something else that you probably just take for granted, is this ability to how you communicate and how you're able to probably, repair when there's been damage in the relationship, and how do you come back together and work through conflict and find the good in each other, find the miracle in each other, all these things. And I so appreciate seeing that, because as you know, we are out in the world, you're out in the world, and you don't always see that in couples, let alone couples who will bristle at the idea of working with each other. And to me, it's like, I can't think about how I wouldn't work with my wife. It's like, how am I'm better with her than without her. I mean, my biggest issue right now with Joanne is that I want to spend more time with her, not less. And so it's like, it's the same sort of thing that I think that you guys have. And so here's another observation that you made me think about. So we sometimes, when it comes to asking teams to reflect, or individuals on teams to reflect about their ability to engage in conflict, it's a big issue in organizations, right? It can really slow things down. And so I asked them this question. I said, so how was conflict managed when you were a child? And how is that approach the way in which you deal with conflict as an adult? Well, my God, does that ever get people thinking about it, right? It's a mirror. So you take that sort of childhood a way to deal with conflict, and you're still acting out those same sort of paradigms and mores as an adult running a multi-billion-dollar company, right? So then I'm thinking like, all right, so I've never thought about this until just now, but I'm curious as to the relationship between the kind of communication and trust that takes place within marriages and partnerships, right? That these executives that I deal with have, and how does that translate into how they deal with teams and each other?
Sure.
Like some of the leaders that I know, I think are extraordinarily great leaders. And I think about, as I get to know them better, part of what I hypothesize is that they also have really positive, successful marriages and partnerships, that there is a relationship between those two. And so you being a good partnership in marriage can only make you a good partnership in business. And there's some sort of, you learn how to be a good business partner in a sense by being married or in a relationship with your best friend, right? That's the connection I'm trying to make.
Yeah, 100%. I'd say it took us a really long time because in the pain-based practice, I said outright, I am so happy to not work with him. Now, here's the thing. We work on everything else together. I would have him with me 100% of the time. It really doesn't have to do with time. It had to do with like how we connected with when we disagreed with each other, just like we're talking about. And we hadn't figured out how to be as effective at that because we both come from places that I think we've changed a lot since we got married. We've grown together, and it really has made it possible for us to, at this point, join together in a business venture. Because I'd say probably 6 years ago, I was still saying, goodness no. I don't want to, because it was almost like, well, who's in charge? How much are you? You know what I mean? Like it became like a power play thing instead of a, hey, we are the power, it's us doing together instead, and so, and that took some doing because, well, I don't know how much you want to say about things, but.
Well, let me ask you this. Let me kind of like put a bow on this a bit. So you guys are doing some really important work for kids and families. If somebody's listening to this, not just our family because they want to listen to this podcast, but there's somebody else listening to this, right?
Right.
How do they find you? What resources can you turn them on to? Those, I guess, that's how I kind of want to close this out, is how can we connect to you after this?
So one way, so to connect to us, you can look at Foundations Chiropractic LLC. We're in Hendersonville, Tennessee, just north of Nashville. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram.
We're on LinkedIn.
We're on LinkedIn now. Yep. We're doing all the social medias. And then if you're looking for somebody that does what we do, pxdocs.com is a really good resource to find other PX docs. Yep.
PX, like,
Yep.
Pediatric.
Okay.
Pediatric experience, but it's just PX and then docs, DOCS, and then .com.
Okay.
And then you can go to the find a doctor section, and that can get you to a doc in your area.
But the reason that website is so awesome is because it actually has a lot about neurologically focused chiropractic and how it pertains to different a variety of different issues. Yeah. And so it's really informative. You can actually go to our website, and a lot of the resources that we have on there link to some of their articles and stuff.
Yeah.
So you guys, I know you're kind of busy and you've got a family, and you've got a lot going on. Jennifer, you're extremely accomplished artist, of which our house is covered in your work. By the way, we need some new work because we need to start shifting things around. No, you guys you're a very busy couple, but I would hope for not only that you would continue doing what you're doing, but you would get this message out more. I want to see you at conferences. I want to see you on more social media. I want to see you giving talks. I want to see you become the big deal that you should be. That's my hope for you. Because I really think I think it's not just because I love you two to pieces, but I think that there's something so incredibly important and timely that you two can really make a huge splash. And again, I'm a scaler. I think in terms of that, right? Joanne says something, my wife, you know her, she says something and go like, you really need to get on a national stage with this message. And he goes, I don't know if I want to do that. Right. So I always go that way. So you have to like take it with a grain of salt. But regardless of Dean's sort of perspective on the desire to scale, I do think you have something worthy of scaling. Take it for what it's worth.
Yeah.
We just did a visionary weekend where we were kind of envisioning that, trying to figure out what that looks like for us, like the scalability of our business, how to scale it, how to reach more people. And we actually put on free educational workshops every month in order to try to help get people to even understand what we do. Because honestly, we're not just looking at our clinic. Yes, of course, that's wonderful. We want that to be successful. Of course we do. But we're looking at their clinics all over the country. Not very many, because it's still a very niche thing. There's one or two in some states. There are some states that don't have any yet. And so it's still difficult to find. But for us, we want as many people to know about this and that this is a possibility as possible, because it really is. People don't know they can get help.
Yep. Well, you too. Thank you so much. This has been great.
Thank you.
And hope to see you maybe around Thanksgiving.
I hope so. That'll be awesome.
Oh, no, I just put it out there. Love you guys.
Love you too.
We'll see you soon.
All righty.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Leadovation with Dean Newland. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to learn more about Dean or Mission Facilitators Leadership, go to mfileadership.com. That's mfileadership.com, or check the show notes. Reimagine, facilitate, flourish. Transform your leadership success with Leadovation.